Helen Doron, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I,
How are you?
I'm very well, better than you from what I hear. I know that Helen was expecting my phone call this afternoon, but I don't think, Helen, you were expecting it to be on live radio.
I was not, but I'm up for the challenge.
Well, I'm sure you are. You seem to be one of the most well-prepared women I've ever read about
Oh,
over
wow.
over the last
Hillary
recently.
Clinton, eat your heart out.
Oh, well, I have to say, I really am a passionate for children, education, them expressing themselves. So anything that's to do with children, education, and that, expressing themselves, which is exactly what all your systems seem to be about, I find fascinating. Helen, how welcome and good afternoon, firstly. It's a
Thank
pleasure to
you.
make your acquaintance. How did you get into this and now having franchises of your concept all around the world?
Okay. How long a broadcast is this? How long are we talking for? We got 2 hours. Or do you want the short version?
You've got at least another 50 minutes should you need it.
50 or 15?
50, 50. This is an important subject, and if you've got the material, we've got the time.
My goodness. Okay. Well, here we go. Let's switch off all the other phones and let's move on.
This is
Okay.
exciting. This is
How did I get into
live
this?
radio in action. How exciting!
I had no idea.
At its best.
Okay, fantastic. I started by being learning linguistic science at Reading University. I went on to be teacher of English at Poitiers University in France. I taught English literature and English phonics and phonetics. And then I got married, became a mother, 3 children.
Lovely.
And when my daughter was 4 years old, I already had 3 children, and I went with a five-day-old son to her first Suzuki lesson. That is a method of learning the violin by listening and practicing, but not by reading notation. That means the children would meet twice a week, once in a group lesson, once in an individual lesson. They'd learn how to move the fingers. At home they would have cassettes in those days that they heard twice daily in the background with the music they were learning while they would be eating, sleeping, playing, and they knew the music in their heads. They only had to translate it into movement on the instrument. And Dr. Suzuki, who was Japanese, he called this the mother tongue method of learning music. And I thought to myself, my goodness, here we have a mother tongue method of learning music. Where is the mother tongue method of learning language? Why are these children, we're talking 35 years ago, why are these children learning music, learning music with the mother tongue method, but children all over the world, from what I could see, at the age of 10, 11, were starting to learn English, for example, and it was too late. And they were learning it through reading and writing. I mean, which is absurd. How does a child learn a mother tongue? They're speaking and listening. First they hear. One day they open their mouth and they go, Mama. And Mama goes, wow, didn't you do that well? And baby thinks, yeah, I did it really well. I can see by your reaction, and I'll do it again because I did it so well. So this is repeated hearing, production, positive reinforcement from the caretaker, and what we get from that is how the child learns his language. Any course in early child language acquisition, language acquisition, will tell you that the cornerstones of this are repeated hearing and positive reinforcement. So I said, we're doing it all wrong. We're teaching language wrong, whether we're teaching English or Spanish or whatever. We should be teaching it young. No one was teaching it young in those days. We should be teaching it young. We should be teaching it through repeated background hearing and positive reinforcement. So I went out and I did it. I taught groups of kids, age 1 to 6, because that was the age group I was curious about. I made my own homemade cassettes, which were horrible. It was me plonking on the piano and singing and doing stories and rhymes. Every 2 months I'd change them the cassette. And at the end of the first year, the few groups I had done very well. And parents approached me and they said, please take my 7-year-old. Please take my 10-year-old. Please take my 12-year-old. And I went, whoa. They learn in school. And they said, yeah, but the 6-year-old speaks better than the 12-year-old. So I realized that we had something there. I couldn't meet the demand. I was getting phone calls from everywhere. It was word of mouth. So I decided to duplicate myself and to create a system. So the first system went out with cassettes. It was a system with five cassettes. Well, there were 2 cassettes or 4 cassettes, whatever it is, was what was in it. Many books. It was professional musicians. I started doing professional teacher training. We put together offices, warehouse. Every year I had to create more learning materials. So I was everything. I was marketing. I was production. I was teacher training. I was teaching. I had 3 young kids. My husband had come in behind supporting me with warehouse and finance. And those were the early years, the very early years. After about 10 years of working like that, my teachers had started moving into other countries. We started moving all over the place. And I had agents in other countries who sometimes stayed, sometimes didn't. And I said, this is no good. This is teaching language to children. They have to stay. Business-wise, I need them, and they need to be there for the children year after year. They can't just stop and start. So I said, okay, they have to buy into this system, and then they put their money down, they'll continue. The first contract I showed to somebody in Germany, he said to me, my lawyer says it is franchising. And I said, no, it isn't. I created this system. In fact, I'd reinvented the wheel. One good business consultant might have actually helped me on the way, but I didn't have any good business consultants. So I went into franchising. And franchising means that you have a system that is duplicatable and you can train people and give them exclusivity for what they're doing in their area. And that is what I did. And I have today, I'm in 37 countries with 1,000 branches. We have master franchisees and their sub-franchisees in their areas or countries according to what areas they bought into or the size of their country. And we have a very, very intricate system of teacher trainers. And in fact, we're not just English anymore. We're no longer just English. Our English goes now from age 3 months, the age of 3 months, up to the age of 18. So kids at 3 months can learn. Why not? It's a mother tongue. They learn another mother tongue. I'm a grandmother today.
Congratulations.
You are too. I heard that.
Yes, recently. It's very exciting.
Yes. I don't know whether your grandkid speaks more than one language.
Well, she's only 8 months old at the moment. But
where does she live?
She lives in Spain, and both my children are bilingual. In fact, people think they're Spanish when they talk amongst themselves because they were born in Madrid. And yet when they speak English, you wouldn't know they weren't English.
Absolutely. I know this situation well. I have 3 grandchildren today.
Oh, God bless you. That's just wonderful. It's possibly the best thing I've ever done.
2 of them live in Korea because my son married a Korean, and these kids are trilingual.
Wow.
They speak 3 languages.
So really, the earlier is honestly the better, no?
Earlier, the better. And you know what happens when they learn at a very early age? It's not like later bilingual. It's a different type of process. At an early age, it actually becomes part of the brain's development, which means because language is so complicated, I mean, if you think about language, what you're doing is you're learning intonation, the phonics, the phonetics, and the phonemics, which means it's very specific sounds of the language. You're learning the morphology, which is word structure. You're learning syntax, which is grammar structure. They're learning semantics, which is the wider meaning of things. They're learning all this, and they're learning it all at once. And That's even without writing a word down. It's all in their heads. They're working it out. Their little computers are analyzing day and night, all the time. Analyze, analyze, analyze. Where's the word border, boundary? What's going on? What's meant? What's the intonation? What's the emotion behind it? There they are. They're analyzing. And they do it superbly. But it's complicated. Adults can't do this.
Curious.
And if young kids can, in fact, they could learn 3 or 4 or 5 languages if presented to them in a very systematic, orderly manner. And so this is actually contributes to their brain development. Bilinguals, the research has shown greater cognitive development in them, greater executive functioning. That means that they see the wider picture of things, and they have better functioning of the brain in general, as well as being better as subjects in school in general. And they also have more empathy because they don't just have one set of concepts, because each language comes with its set of concepts. Bilingualism, trilingualism, multilingualism, all these are, I think, probably the most important skills you can give a baby and a toddler.
I can't wait to try all this out on my granddaughter.
Super, super, super.
There is
It's all so important. When people say, they'll learn later, no, they won't. I always have this analogy for why schools like to teach through reading and writing. I know it's becoming less and less. I was very much a pioneer in this because I used to have to argue with people how people can learn through just speaking. And people accept that today. It's very acceptable. But, I think that the schools still like to teach through reading and writing because that's all they understand, and they don't really have the methodology or the materials for teaching otherwise. I mean, it's a bit like the joke of this guy standing under a street light. It's dark, pitch black, one street light. He's standing underneath it looking for something underneath it. And a friend comes up and he says, "Tell me, Thomas, why are you here under this street lamp looking on the floor?" He said, "I've lost my keys." He said, "I can't see your keys here. Where did you lose them?" He said, "Oh, 2 streets down." He said, "Well, why aren't you looking for them there?" He said, "Oh, there's no light there." So there's people, it wasn't the right way to teach language, but it was the only thing they knew. So they were doing what they knew, although it was the wrong way to teach language.
What is your fascination with language? Is it because of that better understanding and empathy of other people? Is that what you find intriguing?
I don't know why I found it intriguing. I think it's the scientific side of it. When you're a linguistic scientist, you learn that it's science. It's physiognomy of the face and how the muscles move. It's the sound waves and how they move. It's a science. So I went into the science of language as well as the sociological aspects of it, which are, of course, child language acquisition, psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics. There's many different aspects which are sociological, but language is actually a science. It's a physical science, and it goes over biology, and it goes over everything. So I found that absolutely fascinating. And the application to young children, I've discovered what happens is it's a whole new methodology. What we have is a methodology of teaching, not in general for language, but not just. And we find that this opens up children too much. Our lessons are real fun. The kids come, they've heard their CDs or their audio downloads now, we work at home. They come to the lesson and they know the whole stuff. They've been hearing it every day at home in the background. The teacher gives them the meaning level of what they've been hearing. And she does this through games and activities. We have very systematic teacher guides. We have lots of downloads, but there's still plenty of space for creativity. And we're full of songs. Everything's songs, and we have fantastic animations for the younger kids up to the age of about 8. There's so much. It's a world in itself, and it's a world of very rich content that goes with a special methodology. And we have teacher trainers that live all around the world, and from China from Korea to Latin America as well. Of course, most of them are still focused in Europe. It's our teacher trainers, our master franchisors, our learning centers. But we don't just have English today, incidentally. We have mathematics, we have kindergarten, we have movement programs in multilingual movement programs. But in Spain, we've introduced at the moment our English program, In fact, in Andalusia and your areas, we have quite a lot of learning centers that kids can go to from the age of 3 months.
Well, we're going to talk about those in just a moment. We're going to take a quick musical break. If you've just tuned in, this is 107.6 FM. My name is Nicole King, and I'm chatting with Helen Doron. And Helen is a visionary in the ways of teaching language. Very much looking forward to hearing more from Helen in just a moment. Welcome, as I say, to MiMarbella 107.6 FM.
Okay, hi. Hi again.
Hi again. Where are you actually speaking to us from right now, Helen?
I'm speaking to you from the Galilee in Israel.
Well, isn't that wonderful? How special is that? I thought I recognized that 972 code. Well, it's lovely to know that you are so far away and yet so close to us right now.
The world's a very small place.
It's become very small. Space. And you will be joining us in April. As I say, we'll be talking about that in a few minutes. But there's a couple of things that stuck in my mind while you've been explaining the history behind your language learning visionary, quite groundbreaking approach to learning languages, very much not following the standard lines of reading and writing. Repetition to a degree, but in a different aspect. So that's really very nice to know that these things exist, because it's hard to get the word out, I'm sure, Helen, to tell everyone that you can do it a different way.
Yeah, it can be done differently. It is being done differently. I think we've been in Spain now for about 15 years, probably in the Andalusia area for about 10 years. We have many centers around there. We've got 35 centers in Andalusia, I think you say. Only, and we're very big in Spain. And these centers accept kids from the age of 3 months to the age of 18 years.
It's quite
and we have specially trained teachers who have done basic training and ongoing training in order to understand the methodology, because methodology is everything. Because you could take these same materials and not work in a nice manner with the kids. Positive reinforcement is a very special thing. It's not just making it fun. It's important the lesson's fun. It's important the lesson's lively. It's important that everything is meant to be in there, whether it's a lesson for young kids, which is just spoken, or a lesson for older kids, which includes reading and writing and phonics and everything that they need to learn. All this needs to be done through fun and in a way in which the kids are motivated. And kids are motivated through success. Most people think that if you're motivated, you will become successful. It's the other way around. Success brings motivation, and you feel successful when you're not being criticized, when you receive a reasonable amount of praise, and you think, I am doing well. Yes, that's nice. It's nice to be doing well in something. Wow, you know what? In school, I'm not doing so well, but here, I'm successful. Wow, I like it here because I'm a success. And then they're motivated to learn, and then they do better in English. And once they've done better in English, they go to school and they start to do better in everything as well. This spills over, this very positive learning experience. In fact, a lot of teachers have said that it spills over into their personal lives as well. And they see it quite as a way of life, being good to people and finding the positive in them, rather than focusing on the negative with a magnifying glass and rubbing salt in the wounds the whole time.
It definitely seems to me to make sense. I don't understand why it isn't always that way. I remember a teacher saying to my son, you'll never finish if you carry on like that. Whereas another teacher would say, oh, you're doing so well, you'll be finished in no time if you carry on like that. Same song, different tune.
Absolutely. I think it comes from lack of methodology for teachers. For some people, for some teachers, very few. I mean, mostly it's just lack of methodology. But some of them need to feel more important, and they build themselves up by pushing others down, and it's a personality trait. But even that can be unlearned sometimes if you work on it enough. And that's what we do in our trainings. We're always looking for more teachers. If there's anyone out there listening who would like to join our teacher force, Incidentally, our teachers are international. Teachers who train in Madrid or in Malaga or wherever it is, or Marbella, teachers who train there and they work there. Tomorrow, if they decide they want to travel the world, they could go to Shanghai and become a teacher there. You don't need anything but English in order to teach.
So you
You
don't
have
have to
teacher
have
guides that are. It's a
pre-qualifications.
franchise system.
You don't
You
have
could
to have...
walk into a class in Quito, in Ecuador, and walk into a class there and say, okay, what's the kid learning? Okay, the kid's learning with our learning set, Jump with Joey. What lesson are they all good? And open it up, have a box full of props and start working with practically no even prep time, because we're so systematic. And it's really important, actually. Years ago, I went to a conference in Sevilla. It was an ELT conference. I can't remember what the organization was that did it. I was actually giving 2 talks there. And I sat in at the end of this organization of learning center owners, and they were all talking about their problems. Their first problem was that they were annoyed that parents wouldn't of kids that were going into 2nd or 3rd year with them wouldn't agree that new kids were put in. They talked about young kids. And I was thinking to myself, my God, of course you can't put them in because some are advanced kids and some aren't advanced kids. Are they trying to put these new kids in because the kids don't advance? There's no proper syllabus. And their second problem with this is the ELT, the ELT learning centers, was that they say teachers leave and they don't know what they've taught. And I thought, oh my God, how can you run a center like that? It has to be systematic. You have to be in control of what the child's syllabus. When a parent joins us with a 3-month-old kid, he knows what he's learning this week. We know what he's going to be learning next week, next month, next year, in 5 years' time, and in 10 years' time. It's there. They've got a syllabus, and teachers come and teachers go. But the syllabus is there, and the child's in good hands. We are responsible for that. I can't imagine it being any other way. It's very strange that so much power is given to teachers rather than to syllabus in many of these places.
Exactly, I'm listening. I'm so fascinated by what you're saying. So many questions are coming to mind, and just thinking about the preparation to make this syllabus, Helen. Not only the investment of money, but the years, the time that it must have taken you to compile all this information to put it down in such a coherent fashion.
Yes, it's years and years. I don't do it on my own anymore. I now have, whether it's the kindergarten development, or it's a maths, or it's our other development, or the English, which is what we're mostly known for, we have development teams all over the world. We have our trainers and very experienced teachers help us in the writing of our new courses. I have coordinators who sit in head office. We recently did a new series called Alpha Boat, which is going to be released in Spain this summer, well, this autumn. And Alpha Boat teaches not only spoken English, but also reading and writing. And we worked with a company in Canada who took on teams in India. And and our musicians, and it's each one of these learning sets is an enormous project that involves tens, if not hundreds of people that produce them. What we do are very big productions so that the kids have something really good, but we stay with these for many years afterwards. But we're always upgrading and writing new stuff according to need, and because children change, the world changes. You can't stick with the music you were doing 10 years ago. It's different. Things have to change.
Very important to keep also that interest going. Talking about interest, I was very impressed about you continuously making reference before to the positive reinforcement, but something else that also struck a musical chord, was you talking about emotion. And it sounds as if it is as important for the student to feel motivated, emotion, as for the person teaching it to be motivated, feel emotion, to keep that vibe up, to make it that it all comes together. Doesn't matter the system if you don't have that follow through, I would imagine.
What's more important than emotion in this world? It's much more important than intellect or anything else. I mean, it's our emotional body. It's who we are. It's our emotions that are going to give our relationships and our happiness level and our health. Everything is on emotion. So when you sit there and you teach children in a school in a way which hurts them emotionally, how awful! How awful! It's emotion is so important. It has to be fun, but on the other hand, it has to be challenging. Children don't want to sit there learning things easy so that they'll feel good. They want to be challenged. They want to expand themselves. They want to expand their emotion. That's also a sense of satisfaction for them. So it has to be done in a way in which the child feels clever, feels motivated and successful, that they have stuff which is very challenging the whole time, but they think, wow, I've done it, and I'm good at it. Of course they can, especially with this repeated home hearing. I mean, imagine you had to go to China tomorrow. You were going to China and you had to learn Mandarin. And you came to a lesson and somebody taught you a song in Mandarin. It was, I don't know, I can't speak Mandarin. Something like that, you know? And you had a whole song and they taught you what it meant. And you left the lesson. You hadn't really enjoyed the music because you're not tuned into Chinese music. You can't actually remember what you were taught. You have a huge headache from trying to remember it. Now imagine instead of that, you'd been given a CD or you'd been given a computer download, you downloaded it and you were listening to it on stream while you were doing the housework, brushing your teeth, moving around the house or something like that, and it was playing in the background. After a week, you actually quite like the tune, and actually the words are stuck in your head, but you don't know the meaning. And then you go to a lesson, and the teacher teaches you that Ching Chang Chang Wang means that the cherry trees are in blossom, and Wang Wang Bring means that I feel happy. And you leave it, and you've got the meaning level and the sound in your head, and it was easy, no headache. It works for adults as well. Obviously, it's a lot more profound for children because it actually changes the biology and the physiology of the brain and the neuron, the pathways of learning in the brain. It has a much more profound effect on a child's brain, but it also works for an adult. So you don't have to try to remember. It's in your head. You heard it again and again and again and again. Obviously, the younger, the more powerful.
Yes, as I understand it, the elasticity of the brain continues all the time. However, it's just so much quicker for a child. They don't have to undo anything. They're just adding to. Whereas otherwise we're undoing
Nicole,
connections.
the music you like the most. How old were you when you heard it?
My favourite song is probably Nancy Sinatra's These Boots Are Made for Walking, and I was 2.5, 3.
Really?
Yes, I can remember putting my wellies on.
You're quite a bit younger than me then. Okay.
I'm a baby. I'm a baby. Comparative, everything's relative. But yes, I mean, I do have, when I was in my teens, I very much...
Came out when I was 10.
The Carpenters.
I remember that one.
Things from childhood, without a doubt. Are the ones in your teens. These are the songs that I most remember, I would think.
That's when our teenage years, when we were emotionally developing, and we have an emotion that's normally connected to the song and when we heard it and what it was, etc.
Yes.
So these are normally our favourite songs are the ones we learned when we were teens. So yeah, so emotion, song, interaction, movement, doing. How do you learn intonation? You learn intonation through the talking, through the hearing, through the singing. Knowing a language means actually functioning in it. I always say if you can laugh at jokes quite subtle jokes with double meanings and things in another language, then you know the language. And that you learn layer through layer. You don't learn it through, I learned the word once, I know the word, because words don't have just one meaning. They have many different references, and you have to be so exposed to language. I mean, people say, oh, I'm quite good at English, I don't need to learn it. Of course you need to learn it. You can never stop learning English. I'm still learning English. Every time I go back to the UK, I learn new English because the language is changing the whole time. I think, oh, that's a new one. And so English language learning, and when you have high-level English language learning, especially with our teens, we have a lot of teen programs that engage them in things that are really for them, with songs that are really touch them with their subject matter and with their music and subjects and debates and doing and things they can hear again. The involvement in it, it's the involvement of the emotional and knowing that they're doing it well, because they will always do it well. Because we always give them tests as well before they enter, when they don't enter as children, to make sure we put them at a level that is suitable for them, so they'll be able to develop at the most appropriate pace.
People who want to find out more, Helen, about your methodology and how to either partake and find teachers or to become a teacher, can attend, as I understand it, the Master Franchisee Conference that's coming up in April. As I understand, you're bringing some...
this is for Master Franchisers. People who want to hear about it should go online. It's helendoron.com, and then there's also helendoron.es, I think it is. Is that for Spain? Would it be an ES
yes,
at the end?
that would be our local...
There's also helendoron.es, so they can look at the COM site or the ES site, and they'll have all the information that they need, whether you want it for your kid, so that they can start to learn English and start to develop. It's more than English. We don't just teach English.
Is it suitable for schools, I mean for institutions, to embrace these systems, or does it have to be done according to your system through language centres as such?
That's an excellent question. We also have large group possibilities, because we teach in small groups up to about 8 children in our learning centres, so that the children get a lot of attention and they're able to express themselves more. So we have small groups in our centres. However, in institutions, we have materials, learning sets that are specially created for large groups. And we have materials actually from babies upwards for institutions, but especially, I don't know what age children start to go to institutions.
Well, they start going to kindergarten or these guarderías from 3 months, so they can be any age.
Okay, so we can be invited in for larger groups as well, in certain structures, and also for schools, at least primary school. We have enough learning materials and teachers to be able to go in and teach them in that environment. It's normally done after school. The children stay on for lessons, or it could be done within the school structure. I don't know how it works in Spain. I have no idea, so I cannot accurately answer that question.
But what I am understanding is that the intention is, if there is interest to embrace this system, your team will do everything to make sure that that happens.
Absolutely. I mean, if anybody's listening and they're interested, helendoron.es or helendoron.com, you can find the right people to contact there. And we have with 35 centres in Andalusia, we can cover most areas with our local branches. Yeah.
Well, I'm really looking forward to meeting you, Helen, hopefully when you come to Marbella, to Spain. Is it going to be your first visit, or have you been here before?
No, I've been to Andalusia many times. I've got friends in Sevilla and the areas around and south of there, and I've visited on more than one occasion. It's one of my favourite places on earth. I wanted to say that people listening actually have a lot of free stuff for their kids and their teens. There's a Helen Doron Song Club on Helen Doron Song Club. If they look it up, you can find that on YouTube. And that has, I don't know how many songs, maybe 80 songs with animation that you can show your kids and have a lot of fun. It's our original songs. It's our proprietary songs. For teens, we have, not only do we have the Helen Doron Teen English video clips for kids age, let's say 10 to 16, I would say the video clips, maybe even 10 to 18, depend on which video clips that they can watch, which teach English and which are a lot of fun. and the Helen Doron Teen English, we have our own radio station.
I'm so impressed with, I mean, it's like, is there no stopping you? It's very impressive to think that you have
We just
achieved all this.
started. Come join us.
Well, maybe I will. I mean, I'm absolutely, listen, I'm never speechless, Helen. Anyone who knows me will say this doesn't happen often. But the cogs are turning. I like this. I love languages. I went to bed reading the Roget's Thesaurus to get as many words in my brain as I could. I love words. So I'm finding it fascinating.
Wow, well, that's good because you can read any dictionary and enjoy yourself.
Exactly. Well, as you say, it's those subtleties of a language, their intonations. Like I was speaking to someone, a foreigner who's in local Spanish politics, speaks very good Spanish. But it came up the other day with a word which is an expression, eres un enchufado, which she took to understand you're a person who knows people and you've got good contacts in a nice way. However, there is no other way to understand that as you've been put there because you've got a family who's like put you in and you don't deserve to be there. So her understanding of the very fine difference.
Nuance.
The nuance, exactly what I was saying, the nuance of it meant the same thing as she thought, but it could never be used because it was only a negative expression. And that was interesting to see. Those things
it's like the
fascinating.
British. I mean, Britain has basically got at least two words for everything, because we have our Gaelic and Celtic background, but we've also got we had the Normans, 1066. They came in and gave us another word for everything. So they got tons and tons of vocabulary, a lot more than other places. And so many different meanings and so many double meanings. And one of the interesting things about English is that because you don't have a morphology with the case structure built into it like German, for example. I don't know what it's like in Spanish. I don't think you have it in Spanish either. You have a lot of prepositions, but you don't actually have it on the word. That means you don't have the genitive case structure on the word, or the ablative case structure on the word and stuff like that, or the subject, objective, etc. You can have funny jokes, like, I mean, the obvious linguistic joke would be, and here's one, which happens because English doesn't have this case structure on words. This guy standing at a bus stop eating fish and chips, and this other guy standing there with his dog on a lead, and the guy said, "Can I give him? The dog's driving him nuts," and the person's even lets him off the lead. And the guy drives the guy even more nuts. So the guy with the fish and chips turns around to the other guy and says, "Can I throw him some?" He said, "Yes, of course." He picks up the dog and throws it over the fence.
Oh my!
It's just a joke, but you couldn't do this joke in German because the case structure would have been on the word, and you know that it couldn't have applied to the dog. You can do it in English, and I think a lot of the British humour comes from the fact. From the language structure. It's very interesting. But what I wanted to say to your listeners is that we have something called Teen Buzz Radio. You can look up Helen Doron Radio and you'll get it as well. But it's called Teen Buzz Radio. And it's for teens aged 10, 11 plus. It's 24/7. It runs 24/7. It's especially for ELT teenagers. And it's simplified English with clean but modern music, no swear words, minimal references to drugs, if any, etc. And we have programs. We interview teens from all over the world, whether they're in our centres or not. People tune in from. It's really quite amazing.
Well, I'm definitely going back to go to www.helendoron.com or .es, or look up the Teen Buzz radio station, just to get a grip on this. We're very into our teens. In fact, the subject of this year's United Nationalities of Marbella Summit on the 14th of May is specifically for our children, but our teens, making sure they're getting all the support that they need, which is why it's lovely to talk education, particularly modern advanced education, catering to the children of today, with Helen Doron, who has come up with a fabulous system, not only to learn languages, but has created a franchise empire all around the world. And you are coming to Marbella from the 2nd to the 5th of April for this Master Franchise Conference. Is this where you hope to get...
Actually, I'm staying on after. I stay on personally. Afterwards, we have a teacher training conference afterwards. We meet our teacher trainers for a week in the year. They come together from over 30 trainers from all over the world for the English, and we learn our new stuff. We debate. We talk about the trainings. It's very in depth, so they can go out and continue training teachers afterwards all over the world.
You're a busy young
on.
lady.
Sorry?
You're a very busy young lady.
Busy, yes.
Everything is in the emotion, as I understand it. We are
Yes.
as we feel, and it's important to try and keep that feeling. The summary coming to the end, unbelievably, of this hour, Helen, if you are anyone listening, parents particularly, teachers, children, in general, your understanding of the language, the whole background of how we've come to this far, if you could give 3 words of advice how to approach learning and how to treat our children. I'm devastated when people are disappointed with their children. They are our future, and I very much believe, like you do, we need to find anything to compliment to keep their emotions high and excited to learn. What, as a professional, how can you guide us?
First of all, be what you want your children to be. If you tell them to do something, but they see something else, they're going to do what they see you doing, not what you tell them. Love them unconditionally, and because it'll pay back. When I say love, I mean abolish criticism. Criticism out of the window. Just see the positive and strengthen that, and the rest will go away. And bring them to our centres, of course, where they can learn English much better. They'll learn and on every single level, have fun, remember it as the experience of their life, and bring that love of learning into everything else they do.
Love of learning being the key.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it's been a lovely talking to you. I'm very
Lovely
much
talking to you.
looking forward to meeting you and to knowing more about your system. And just a pleasure, Helen. Thank you so much for caring. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for choosing Marbella as the venue to bring all your people into, to also help promote our wonderful city. I hope we can make you feel as welcome as you deserve.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all our listeners. And thank you, Nicole.